What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. And that is right. I spent Thanksgiving by myself. Wah, wah, wah. Now, actually, it was a choice. So I decided and I wanted to spend Thanksgiving by myself. But before we get into it, let's just talk about you, right? I hope you're having a good day, right? And if you're not, just remember it's the thoughts in our head, right? It's just our fucking brain, our chess game that we have to play within ourselves, like internally, right? What to think, why to think, when to think, and then how to decide to act, right? Remember, influence, thoughts, emotions, actions, outcome. Influence creates thoughts, thoughts create emotions, or drive emotions, emotions then drive our actions or inactions, our decisions, and then that creates our outcome, right? That creates our present day. And just remember, life is just an accumulation of situations and decisions that we make over time. So really it's questioning all these other factors I just talked about when it comes to figuring out why are we making these decisions at these certain times, and why are we getting the outcomes that one we're happy with, of course, and then what are the outcomes that we're not happy with, and then let's really take a look at that and figure out what was the influence, what was the emotion, and then what was the action that the self made at that moment, and then what was the outcome. And so that's what the podcast is about. It's about sharing some stories, sharing perspective. And I know I've been saying I'm going to get some other guests in here. I have a list of people, and I'm excited to get them on. So look forward to that coming up in the very near future. We got to get Patty back on here again. And so here's the thing. So Patty, let's start. Thanksgiving obviously is a day of, being thankful and surrounding yourself with family and friends and just like taking a day to really just basically, I feel like, be gluttonous, eat, watch football, and sit on the couch and not do anything, right? But I would say, like, the perspective of being thankful, or like the reason we're taking that day off and we're doing that, is in essence to give thanks, or to at least reflect back on what we can be thankful for. And I think that is it's actually my favorite holiday. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because of that. I feel like it's not like Christmas. It's somewhat like Christmas because you see your family, and there's that loving, and it's wintertime-ish, and pumpkin pie and lattes and, all that type of food and stuff. Except it's not derived, or it's not the main focal point isn't giving something like a gift in terms of Christmas, but of course, who doesn't love getting gifts? However, I feel like Thanksgiving is the same notion, just without the gift giving, more of the thought process. And that's why for me, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, because it really is, if you take a second to really take in what that day is, and it's being thankful, right? Like reflecting back on being thankful of why I am thankful for, what, am I thankful for? And so there's been plenty of, and this Thanksgiving's been my favorite holiday forever. All right. So there's been plenty of times that I've had very good Thanksgiving days, right? My favorite days of them all, especially when my birthday falls on Thanksgiving, because I get to carve the turkey pretty much now anyway. But when I was younger, like when it was my birthday, I would be able to carve the turkey, right? Which again was one of my favorite things, and obviously singing "Happy Birthday" to me while we carved the turkey, I thought was fantastic. But I've also had a couple of Thanksgivings that, like, again, influence, thought, emotion, action, outcome. Action being your decision. There's been one time in my past that I was with a previous person, right, a previous relationship, where I had mentioned and I had said, hey, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. And I really just want to chill out. Because on Thanksgiving, here's what I do on Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, I totally unplugged. Like, I very rarely, I used to send out texts, like, to everybody, like, being thankful. And now, like, I try to do that beforehand, but, like, starting Monday, I start whining into, or driving into, or, moving into, really just totally unplugging. And so going back to the story, I was with a previous relationship, and, look, getting people together, no matter what, even if it's your family, one day and everyone hasn't seen them, you haven't seen each other for like a while, there's going to be a plethora of talk and laughing and et cetera, and just talk and talk and talk. And I feel like I do plenty of that. I do plenty of that throughout like the rest of my 365 days, right? So for me, I'm like, I'm enjoying more and more of the totally opposite. And there's a couple things that I've gotten. So a couple things that I've gotten from actually taking Thanksgiving by myself. And I'm going to share that with you. But let me get back to the relationship. So the relationship, and obviously family is family. And I already had met the family and I already know the family. But, that day I just got like a continued perspective of like, man, even on Thanksgiving, I can't just like, is this what I have to look forward to? Like moving forward, like in the next couple of years, every year, am I going to have to look forward to this type of Thanksgiving? Because it was just like, just wah, 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 and this and that and drinking. And at the time, of course, I was drinking too. I drank. I bought a six pack of Guinness. I've only drank like 2 so far. so I did indulge a little bit. You know what I mean? A little bit of wine, a little bit of like gummies here and there, but it was one of those moments where like it affected me, and I used it. And I'm not gonna lie, I used it as an excuse to move on. Like I think I was ready to move on, but it really wasn't the individual per se. It was more of just the clan. I don't want to say the clan, but the family. Like it was more of like what was surrounding the other influence, right? It was the other influence that like at my moment of decision making, I was like, yeah, this is not gonna work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to fucking do this because Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, and it was just ruined. You know what I mean? So I made that decision, and then that came. Obviously, other outcomes and other situations came from that. Which ultimately it landed me with Patty, obviously, right? Because I wasn't with that relationship that wasn't long term, and now I'm with Patty. And so with Patty, obviously, if you know the story or if you listen back to some of the episodes, when we first got together, it was very 2 young kids, and we're still that way, right? We're still that way, just a lot more mature in terms of our thought process and the actions that we take, right? Patty had 4 kids, and early on, I was very tough. I'm not saying that I'm not. I'd be very tough on maybe living with me, because I feel like I was the same way. I guess kind of like my mom. Very very like, hey, not as super crazy, right? Not as super physical, but definitely yelling and screaming, and sometimes like. So I get it, right? Like all that stuff happened initially the first couple of years. Just me being somewhat tough in terms of like, hey, this is the way things gotta. We gotta roll. There's a line of respect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then just how I reacted or how I acted, getting upset, throwing things, just a lot of things that we've talked about already. And again, this is a podcast of change, and I'm very happy to talk about it. I'm very happy to talk about the change at some point. So you can listen to some of the past podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. So just setting up the story in terms of like, every time we got together, like after that, like there was always, I don't want to say always, but there's always that underlying like, man, like, how's it going to roll with the kids? And then me, and then like, are the kids not going to talk about, FF1, which is like an acronym for like what I call like their dad, right? So it's an acronym for what I call their dad. So one of the things that I like, if you're having Thanksgiving over with us, I really prefer, and I've stated it before, like, I don't want to hear about your dad. I don't, like, I get that's part of your family. Like, while we're at the dinner table, just please try to exclude that information, because it's my Thanksgiving dinner. I don't want to fucking hear about your dad who we don't, we just don't match up well. You know what I mean? It's just like, I just don't want to hear about it. So I think that happened like last year or something along those lines. And then instead of getting up and like getting upset and yelling or whatever, I got up and I just came to the office, and I was like, all right, guys, thanks. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And I got up and I came to the office and I ate and like shot a video or something or filmed something. But I just decided not to get crazy. So again, that was Thanksgiving. Now with Patty, I'm in it for like this. Patty's my other half. This is it. Like, right. So, there's no using that excuse as like, hey, I'm gonna move forward and not be with you because Patty is my other half. And so this Thanksgiving, usually I'm like, what do we? Usually we do Thanksgiving. They either come here or whatever it is, and then at some point, one of the kiddos got connected to. So Patty's got 4 kids. One of them lives in Georgia. So one of the kids that live here got connected to one of the kiddos that lives in Georgia. I was like, hey, we're going to do Thanksgiving. And all of a sudden, all the family, and there's more family over there in Georgia. So it became like this whole big thing where I was like, okay, we're going to Georgia. Da-da-da. We're going to have Thanksgiving there, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to see the kids. I'm like, great. I'm going to stay home by myself. All right, I'm just going to stay home by myself because I felt like I wanted to do this anyway for a while, whether it was Thanksgiving or like around my birthday. I just wanted to take some time to be alone. Like I just wanted some time to just disconnect. I really get a chance to disconnect and not have to do anything, right, that I don't want to do. Like, and I think that's one, being conscious of that moving forward of like, is this what I really want to do? Is this what I really want to be responsible for? Is this what I really want to be doing right now? And if it's not, then really just start not doing it, right? Because I know there's tons of things that I'm still like, but I kind of have to, right? So it's like, that's one of the I guess perspective points is like figuring out, one, getting some time to be by yourself, to 100% unplug. Right, so like not having to say anything to anybody. While Patty wasn't here, there was moments where it's like we weren't talking on the phone. It was just me by myself, and I'm like, this is what it would be like if I were by myself. Now there are good things. I still miss Patty very much, and I think there was a self-conscious understanding that like, well, Patty's still here. She's coming back. She's coming back. So there was a moment of that a little bit yesterday where it was like the length of not having Patty there, which I was like, wow, yeah, like having your alone time is great, but I think ultimately, like, I need Patty. You know what I'm saying? So like, or I need my other half, right? And I feel like that's probably probably the same for most humans, right? In terms of civilization, that's why we are a society, because we need that back and forth in terms of. However, having that time to just unplug and actually like not have to speak to anybody and just be like in your own thoughts, and then have just the ability to like guide that on your own sort of thing without like texting or someone called me or XYZ, like. Very seldom now, like on Thanksgiving, I didn't really answer anybody. Like I either waited till moments later, like the next day or before, but really it's just, it was my day to just be by myself and take the moment for me. And I think that led to, the thought of being thankful, right? Like being thankful for what I do have with my other half, Patty, what I do have in terms of like my reality, how I choose to live my life in a way, and I decide and I do things and I act on for like the betterment of me and myself. But then I also had moments of questioning, how can I be better at this relationship, or how can I be better in this situation with this relationship, including Patty, my other half, because I feel like we've been together for a while, and I think she deserves a lot. She deserves everything she's looking for, and then she has on her vision board and her goal board. And I want to be more proactive on that. It's not that I don't support it, but I want to be more proactive on it. And that means I have to do certain things on my end to keep generating, keep going, and to keep pushing that move, forward. So I'm excited for that, because it was well worth it. And I think so. I would say I would encourage you, if you haven't yet have gotten a time to just be by yourself and take like a day or two by yourself, to just be alone with your own thoughts and your own, without having look at the phone, unless you want to be entertained, but like really try to stay away from the phone, no texting, things like that. I would highly encourage just doing something like that, like a 2 or 3 day getaway where you just be by yourself. I'm telling you, it was fucking amazing. Whether it was reading or listening or playing music, or like there are things that I did that I typically don't do on my like normal 9 to 5, 9 to 12 week. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is. So, I would highly recommend it. I would say that's the perspective. One, being thankful for sure, taking Thanksgiving as that day to give yourself the ability to actually be thankful, right? Like, what are you thankful for? Of course, you're going to go eat and hang out and watch football or do whatever and drink wine. Like, that's great. But just, be present in the moment. I like with any other day, but, I guess Thanksgiving puts it out there. And then just, and I guess a quick side note in terms of like relationships among family, like, family is family, and there's going to be just like anybody else, even though it's family. Like, I think there are people a little bit all over the place when it comes to like the perspective of family. You have you're always going to have, well, family's family no matter what, and then you're also going to have family's family, but some people are family members that like bring you down. You got to stay away from, or you got to figure out a way to like maneuver yourself through there. So, whatever it is for you, I would say in that moment, like, what do you want out of it? And then if it's dealing with someone else on the other side in terms of family stuff like that, you either have to wait till the person's ready or till you're ready. It just has to make sense. And I think it's, again, level of consciousness and awareness when it comes to figuring out, what are we doing? How am I feeling? And why are we acting this way? And then the last thing would be just giving yourself some time to just be by yourself, even if it's a day where you just unplug. There's such an amazing feeling to be able to do that. So I feel refreshed. You probably hear it in my voice, and you probably hear that ringing in the back. That means the chicken is done. Have a great day, guys. I hope you guys are crushing it. I'm thankful for your comments and messages and just the viewership. I'm so thankful for that. We got a couple of cool things. Do us a favor if you are listening. Follow us on the Instagram, on the gram at NCUID. We're going to be posting some shorts on there, and that'll be our best line of communication. If you want to be on the show, or if you have thoughts, feedback, topic ideas, feel free to message us on the gram at NCUID. Also, the website is being reconfigured a little bit, and that'll be up shortly. Where you can support us with some of the merch, man. I think the gear is awesome. Nike can't put it on their clothing, so let's rock it out so that way Nike comes knocking on our door, and we'll start holding a bunch of retreats and events, et cetera, et cetera. All right, homies, I appreciate you. Have a great day. Keep crushing it. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace.